if you like the channel, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/MundaneMatt. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and this is my review, my what I think of South Park Season 21, Episode 7, Doubling Down. It's been a couple weeks since South Park was on the air, and oh my god, this episode was a very interesting one to watch. So basically, Cartman, whatever, I don't know what they're doing with Cartman and Heidi at this point. Like, it's been something he's been trying to get rid of for the entire season at this point. And the episode starts off and he is crying, he's bawling because Heidi broke up with him. And then, of course, like, he blames his anger issues because he pushed her in front of a car and called her a whore on his blood sugar spiking from his diet. And then she basically suggests, like, why don't, you become vegan? So then he tearfully agrees to become vegan after chastising his mom for ruining his life for the food that she gives him. Then, of course, Heidi brings him vegan food for lunch, and he hates it, and he's upset. And then he decides to mess with her by telling her that he tried, an all-tofu version of KFC called Beyond KFC. So it was really tofu chicken, and he starts feeding her tofu chicken. Well, really, it's KFC. To which case she starts feeling ill because it's messing with her system because she's not used to eating it. She starts putting on a couple pounds, and then Cartman goes around and starts telling everyone that she's getting fat, and then starts mocking her for being fat because he's feeding her Beyond KFC and Beyond Arby's, lying to her about it being vegan food. And at no point is she questioning him because, I guess, reasons. To which case Kyle then goes to her and asks her what's going on, like why she doesn't just break up with him and all this stuff. To which case she then doubles down on her relationship with him. And it's interesting because at the same time, the second story is it goes over to the White House where President Garrison, is just destroying everything. And they said they weren't going to cover Trump, but they clearly lied. They clearly went into this with him. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, and Mike Pence show up to try to, like, talk some sense into him and try to calm him down and everything. And he ends up beating the crap out of Paul Ryan, and then I guess ejaculating in his eye because Ryan goes on the news like with a black and blue eye and what appears to be crusted semen on it, and it gets even pointed out by the media. So I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Is no matter what Trump does, no matter what he's doing in the presidency, these guys will just defend him, even if he is in fact abusing them, if he's just destroying the party. It was an interesting take on that. But then that kind of coincides with the main story of Cartman and Heidi, where in this particular case, Cartman is Trump. Cartman is representing a Trump presidency, and his actions towards Heidi, his constant destructive, boorish actions, make her, kind of regret what she's done, question her own decisions. But when questioned by someone who, let's say, is a liberal like Kyle, then of course she doubles down. And I just thought that was a very interesting take on the whole situation because they were really sending a message home with that. But then this is where it takes a bit of an interesting turn as well, is Kyle seeks out the girls in the school, the girls in their class, to ask them to basically lay off of Heidi because every time they question her over her dating preferences and why she's with Cartman, she just doubles down on it. And then they go, oh, but you like Heidi. And he's like, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, do I? And honestly, that was a thought that I had from every time Kyle has called out Cartman over this. I started to kind of ask myself, does Kyle have a little thing for Heidi? Is it coming in at the end there and wanting to save her, protect her from Cartman? He knows how bad Cartman is. He knows, but she just can't see it because she's too blinded to it. And of course, I'm not trying to assign that any kind of political leanings. Clearly, the message here was that, but not the way I took it originally, at least. And so going into the whole process, like they start talking to one another, they start kind of hanging out, they start bonding, and she starts kind of distancing herself from Eric. And then Eric, gets to be upset. He starts crying, goes to Token's house for some reason, as if Token's meant to, be kind of like the token black voter for Trump. I don't quite know why they chose Token, but whatever. And so he goes on over and he hangs out in there. And essentially, is talking about his problems, talking about his girlfriend. And then his mom, or Token's mom's like, oh, who's your girlfriend? He's like, oh, it's Heidi Turner. And the dad goes, oh, isn't she with that Broflovski kid? I saw them in the park holding hands together. In which case, Cartman gets furious and he decides to get back at Kyle by essentially telling Heidi the truth. But the truth wasn't about Cartman, about everything he had done and why he'd done it, why he acts out, why he is egotistical, narcissistic, sociopathic, psychotic, everything about Cartman that they are now trying to channel into the idea of a Trump presidency. Essentially, they're saying that Trump is president. I know that they're saying that it's Garrison, but the mindset they were conveying here was that Trump was president. And then he turns it around on Kyle by getting Heidi to go there. And she talks to Kyle and she says, I don't know why I didn't see it before. Your people are always like that. See me, I'm Irish Catholic. But your people, they're always just very sneaky. And she basically calls him a dirty Jew. And like that, I was watching, I'm like, oh my God, like what the hell happened? Is it just Eric? Because she was in such a bad place at the time because of everyone bullying her and her throwing herself off social media and then acting like she didn't exist, which is why her and Cartman got together. And then just like that whole abusive relationship came about and he just came in at the last minute and basically pulled the sneaky Jew card. What he's been saying about Kyle now for 21 years, that he's just a dirty Jew. And then at the end of it, they're walking away and Cartman looks back at Kyle and gives him a face and Kyle's like, did she just call me a dirty Jew? And it was like just a kind of, whole moment of like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? What in the hell is going on here? Cartman cannot lose to Kyle, period. But that moment though, when she was telling him about like, your people this and your people are sneaky, to me, given what I was already picking up on at the time, I'm like, oh, this is you're fake news. You're a liar. You're this, you're this, you're this. I've done nothing wrong. It's never my fault. It's everyone else's fault. And that's always been Cartman's routine. It's always been somebody else's fault. Now they can actually channel that particular, that mindset into an anti-Trump narrative. But it kind of fits, right? I mean, there's no one out there outside of Trump's 33% base now that I think can fully say that there is not something rotten in Denmark in terms of the presidency. Not saying everything's extreme Russia, but there's tons of issues there across the board. And this kind of channeled a lot of that in a way that feels like a 2-decade burn. But it almost makes you question if at some point in time we were destined to come to this point. Right? Just the way society has gone all these years was destined to put somebody in the White House that's like that. So yes, the representation on the show clearly is Garrison. And at the end of the episode, he basically pulls out a gigantic purple strap-on and is going to go to town on Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and Mike Pence. And so yeah, it was a dark episode. It was a very dark episode. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm very curious to see what happens next. And I'm very curious what the fan reaction is. Trey and Matt said they weren't going to go after Trump. They have now brought that character in twice. The last episode on the Halloween one, they kind of normalized Trump by having him save the day in the end. And then here, something else entirely happened. So I don't quite know what's going on. I don't know if they're trying to send us a message of buyer's remorse, representing the Heidi as the Trump voters and Cartman as Trump. I mean, clearly that is in part of what they're trying to do. But I don't know where it's going to play into the end game, given the fact that we've only got 3 more episodes left in the season. So I'm just now waiting with bated breath. I want to know what's going to happen. I hope you guys do too. What are your thoughts on the episode? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. If you guys haven't already, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, check back often for more movie news and TV reviews and stuff like that from me. And have yourself a great day, and peace out.